My name is Sal Bagni. I am the author of Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism Revisited. Victims of abuse, in all its forms, verbal, emotional, financial, physical, and sexual, are often disoriented. They require not only therapy to heal their emotional wounds, but also practical guidance and topical education. At first, the victim is naturally distrustful and even hostile. The therapist or caseworker must establish confidence and rapport painstakingly and patiently. The therapeutic alliance between victim and therapist requires constant reassurance that the environment and treatment modalities chosen are safe and supportive. We call it a holding environment. This is not easy to do, partly because of objective factors, such as the fact that the records and notes of the therapist are not confidential and are accessible to the court and to the other party, the abuser. The offender can force their disclosure in court of law simply by filing a civil lawsuit against the survivor. The first task is to legitimize and validate the victim's fears. This is done by making clear to her that she is not responsible for her abuse and not guilty for what has happened. Victimization is the abuser's fault. It is not a victim choice. Victims do not seek abuse, although admittedly, some of them keep finding abusive partners and forming relationships of codependence. Facing, reconstructing, and reframing the traumatic experiences is a crucial and indispensable first phase on the way to healing and recovery. The therapist should present the victim with her own ambivalence and the ambiguity of her messages, but this ought to be done gently, non-judgmentally, and without condemnation. The more willing and able the abuse survivor is to confront the reality of her mistreatment and the offender, the stronger she would feel and the less guilty. Typically, the patient's helplessness decreases together with the self-denial. Her self-esteem, as well as her sense of self-worth, stabilize. The therapist should emphasize the survivor's strengths and demonstrate how these and other assets can save her from a recurrence of the abuse or help her cope with it and with her abuser. Education is an important tool in this process of recovery. The patient should be made aware of the prevalence and nature of violence against women and of stalking, of the emotional and physical effects of abuse, warning signs and red flags, legal redress, coping strategies, and safety precautions. The therapist or social worker should provide the victim with lists of contacts, help organizations, law enforcement agencies, other women in her condition, support groups, domestic violence shelters, and online forums. Knowledge empowers and reduces the victim's sense of isolation and worthlessness. Helping the survivor regain control of her life is the overriding goal of the entire therapeutic process. With this aim in mind, she should be encouraged to re-establish contact with family, friends, colleagues, and the community at large. The importance of a tightly knit social support network cannot be exaggerated. It is important for the victim to understand that she is not alone, not an exception, not a freak. Ideally, after a period of combined tutoring, talk therapy, and anti-anxiety or antidepressant medications, the survivor will self-mobilize and emerge from the experience more resilient and assertive and less gullible and self-deprecating.
Hi guys, we've heard all the claims. Gods are the creators of the universe, we know, and the creators of the universe we don't know yet. After all, it must take a god to do that, right? Well, let's just assume one of the gods is a creator and created the universe. Let's further assume that the various books are right and, as told in the Quran, the Islamic God won the heavenly competition and is the best of the creators. So let's examine this and play out the scenario, what happened before that. Hello, take a seat. I hope you had a pleasant trip. How do I address you? You write in your CV you don't have a name, but your function is Creator God. Is that correct?
That is correct. Just call me God. I am also used to being called Lord or Master.
Fine, whatever. You're being interviewed because you applied as Creator.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for inviting me over. Where can I help?
Well, we need a creator who can create a universe for us. Are you up to that?
Yes, I think I can do that.
Excellent. Well, you sent us a CV which left us a bit puzzled. So would you mind answering a few questions on your key capabilities?
No, not at all. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, it says here your key skills are benevolence, power, wisdom, knowledge, mercy, and eternal. What it says here, you're also immutable, just, transcendent, and good.
That is correct.
So how exactly does that provide the qualification to create a universe, if you don't mind my asking?
Because I am omnipotent, I am able to do what I want. I am also omniscient, so I know what will happen in advance if I do what I want. I am also omnipresent, so I can be everywhere at the same time doing what I want.
Well, that sounds good, but then, since we have a small problem with our supplier and nothing comes from nothing, could you create a universe from basically nothing?
Yes.
Great, now that would help, but can you elaborate a bit on how you can create something from nothing if nothing comes from nothing, as everyone knows?
I can do what I want, so this is a miracle.
So can you also create a round square?
What?
A round square.
But that's impossible by definition.
Well, so is creating something from nothing, but you said you could do that.
Yes.
Okay, let's leave that. So you say you can do everything and know everything. Can you tell us how you would create our universe for us?
No, because I am invisible and transcendent, not contingent and immensely powerful. Also, I need a miracle to do that, and since I am beyond your human comprehension and logics, you will not comprehend the process, which I will need to keep a secret, by the way.
So if we don't know what you will do and how you will do it and using what materials, have you created something previously?
In fact, just recently I created 2 places. They are called Heaven and Hell. I am very proud of them.
Splendid, splendid. Where are they so we can take a look and evaluate your capability to create?
You can't really evaluate them, but you will know one of them after you die.
And which one is that?
That basically depends on your behavior, your gullibility, your adherence to worshipping rituals, and propensity to follow nonsensical rules.
If it depends on me, why can't you tell me, if you are really omniscient and know everything in advance, which one it will be?
Because I have given you the option of doing what is right and what is wrong. If you do what is right, you will be rewarded in the place I created called Heaven. And if you do what is wrong, you will be punished in the other one called Hell.
But do I decide?
It was a weekday in August 2001. At 8:30 in the morning, there was a ring at the front door. I answered, thinking nothing of it. But when I was given the arrest warrant to read through, I started to feel a bit uneasy.
Da ist es mir dann schon früh morgens schon ein bisschen schlecht geworden.
From that day on, teacher Horst Arnold's life changed beyond recognition. He is arrested on the spot. No longer a respectable citizen, he's now a criminal. The charge he faces, the rape of a colleague. His new world, prison.
Ich habe das erlebt.
It was 5 years of hell, 1,800 and something days and nights fighting to survive.
Kämpfen ums Überleben.
On any given day, hundreds of innocent people are in detention in Germany's prisons. That at least is what state compensation payments suggest. The real figure is probably much higher. The system makes no allowance for miscarriage of justice, so it's extremely hard for wrongly convicted persons to prove their innocence. Those who do succeed are abandoned by the state, and it can happen to anyone. A small town in the heart of Germany. Grammar school teacher Horst Arnold arrives at school as every morning. He has personal problems at this time. He's drinking heavily and is regarded by colleagues as difficult. He teaches sport and biology. During a break, he plans to return a DNA model to the biology prep room. Colleague Heidi K is there. The door closes. There are two versions of what happens next. He claims a normal conversation took place. Her version, recorded in the police complaint filed a week later, is that the wheels of justice turn fast. Two weeks later, Arnold's life is turned upside down. CID officers appear on his doorstep with a warrant for his arrest.
Den Polizisten habe ich einen Kaffee angeboten.
I offered the police officers a cup of coffee. I thought it was a bad joke or a case of mistaken identity. I was totally baffled by the arrest warrant.
Diesen Haftbefehl gar keinen Reim draus machen.
He denied the charge and could offer no explanation for it.
After the arrest, Inspector Plefker and his colleagues investigate further. They look for forensic evidence and witnesses, anything that might corroborate one of the two versions of events.
We found no corroborating evidence, not even circumstantial evidence.
Why?
Because there wasn't any.
Is that common?
It's very unusual.
The purported victim, Heidi K., continues to teach at the school. She tells acquaintances about the alleged rape. She also reports it to Anja Keinert, the school's equal opportunities officer. Straight after Arnold's arrest, she makes Anja her confidant.
I was shocked, of course, and I felt I should comfort her, provide some sort of support. I felt responsible for her spiritual well-being at that time. And I think that is why I offered to accompany her to court.
The case comes to court just less than 12 months later. All that time, Horst Arnold is detained on remand. He thinks everything will now be resolved. He'll now be set free.
Naive as I was, and perhaps still am, I believed in the rule of law and hoped that the judges and public prosecutor's office would realize that the charge was unfounded.
Heidi K. sticks by her testimony. The public prosecutor's office believes her and calls for the maximum penalty for rape.
Horst Arnold denied the charge. It was evidently believed that what he said